David Bowie's beliefs. So what exactly were David Bowie's religious, philosophical, and political beliefs? Well, there's no simple answer, unfortunately, because David Bowie was not a simple guy, and said that he was constantly exploring that most of his life. So all we can really do is look at what he said at different points in time and speculate. Once he said,
I was young, fancy-free, and Tibetan Buddhism appealed to me at that time. I thought, there's salvation. It didn't really work. Then I went through Nietzsche, Satanism, Christianity, pottery, and ended up singing. It's been a long road.
Did he say Satanism in that list? Yep, but we've got to consider a few things before jumping to conclusions. He also mentioned Christianity, Buddhism, and Nietzsche, the famous atheist philosopher. And when he said this, it sounded like he was talking about the past even then. Satanism seemed to pique his interest in the 70s at the time he was doing glam shock rock and also doing a lot of drugs. It seems like the satanic imagery used in his shows and his album covers was used as more of a gimmick, just as Marilyn Manson used it in the 90s. They both knew if you piss parents off, you sell records. Now, let's suppose it was something he was into for personal reasons and not just for shock value. Keeping in mind what we learned about Satanism, he most likely wasn't a devil worshipper and may have not even believed in the devil. So what did he believe after the 70s? As we saw, he tried on many hats and was constantly searching. Recently, he may have fallen somewhere between agnostic and atheist. So let's look at his own words. He said, I honestly believe that my initial questions haven't changed at all. There are far fewer of them these days, but they're really important. Questioning my spiritual life has always been germane to what I was writing. Always. It's because I'm not quite an atheist and it worries me. There's that little bit that holds on. Well, I'm almost atheist. Give me a couple of months. That's the shock. All cliches are true. The years really do speed by, life really is as short as they tell you it is, and there really is a God, so do I buy that one? If all the other cliches are true, hell, don't pose me that one. Well, it looks like he still left us a little in the dark, but it's pretty damn obvious he was not a devil worshipper, as atheists don't believe in the devil. Now, Bowie's political views were interesting since he didn't really bother with politics. He was obviously very liberal and believed in freedom of expression, but didn't really seem to involve himself in politics. He seemed to think it was all pointless. He even refused to be knighted. When given the offer to be knighted, he said, I would never have any intention of accepting anything like that. I seriously don't know what it's for. It's not what I spent my life working for. End quote. Back to you, Miss Bones.
Now, what you've all been waiting for. The Vigilant Christian isn't the only YouTuber claiming David Bowie's video Black Star is satanic and that is a sinister message and conspiracy. The internet is rampant with articles as well. Just Google David Bowie Black Star and you'll be shocked at the lunacy. Since so many wild claims are being made, we thought we'd do a little digging and see if we could find the meaning intended by Bowie and the video's director, Johann Rank. As many artists do, they wanted to leave open to interpretation. Luckily, they give us a few breadcrumbs, as it were, to the true meaning behind the video. They mentioned Aleister Crowley as an influence. If you didn't know already, he's a truly fascinating but really f***ing crazy cat. He was a novelist, mountaineer, poet, and painter among many things. Most interestingly, he claimed to be a prophet of the religion Thelema. Did I say that right?
I don't know. I think that's right. That's how I say
Okay.
it.
Which he founded. Crowley claimed that he was destined to guide humanity into the era of Aeon of Horus. He was also quite fond of experimenting with recreational drugs. That must explain a lot. Crowley was also nuts on so many levels. I don't know exactly what to say about him or where to start, so I would highly recommend researching him. Another thing Bowie said about the video is that the scarecrows were not messianic, as in they didn't represent the Messiah. Bowie also mentioned that he portrayed three main characters: the tormented introvert Button Eyes, the flamboyant trickster, and the priest guy. He also said the solitary candle referred to ISIS, as in Islam radicals. A spokesperson of David Bowie denied that it had anything to do with the Middle East. So who knows? Another interesting thing Bowie said about the video was about the twitching, convulsing people. He said they were inspired by old cartoons. You know, how in really old animations, when someone was standing still, like Tom and Jerry or Felix the Cat, they were like doing this weird bouncy bobbly wobble like. Anyway, he wanted to turn that into a dance. That's about all they gave us. Not much to go from. So the whack job, the vigilant Christian, claims to know exactly what it means. Let's look at what he said and see if it jives.
Now we're finally going to look at the specifics on the Vigilant Christian's claims for Bowie's Black Star video. Get ready to laugh your ass off. The Vigilant Christian starts by telling us,
This is one of the most satanic videos ever produced. It's a satanic ritual being played out.
I don't know if he moves like this because he's not in the video, but I do. Now, right off the bat, it's clear he does not understand Satanism, and as you can see from his video's thumbnail, he believes in the Illuminati. So right from the start, he's discredited himself pretty bad. Also, as I mentioned, Bowie was most likely agnostic or atheist, so he'd have no reason to perform a satanic ritual unless he was going back to his shock rock roots, which he said he'd grown out of long ago. And even if he was going back to that, then it would most likely be for theatrics. Then the Vigilant Christian said,
If you allow yourself to be entertained by the video, you're actually participating in the satanic ritual.
Of course, the Vigilant Christian hasn't given any proof of this, and I haven't heard any stories of anyone suddenly being possessed by Satan after watching this video. We're gonna start calling the Vigilant Christian VC for short now, because it's getting really annoying saying Vigilant Christian so much. So, yeah. Okay, so next VC tells us,
It's a witchcraft curse from a satanic puppet of the entertainment world.
once again, we have to take his word for it. Not to mention magic, witchcraft, and witches have zero evidence to support them whatsoever. He's also invoking the rich and powerful fallacy we talked about earlier. Here's another great quote from his video.
Witchcraft is real. Spirituality is real. Curses are real. These elite know it and are manifesting it at high levels of sophistication.
So, we touched on the first part already. Witchcraft has no evidence to support it. But remember when I talked about how the more complex the conspiracy, the less likely it is to be true. Plus, he's talking about the elite again. Then he goes on to say,
This is literally a witchcraft curse that's developed by an elite Satanist.
and goes on to talk about David Bowie's relation to Aleister Crowley and how Crowley was a Satanist. Just a fun fact, it actually annoys a lot of Satanists when they say that Aleister Crowley was a Satanist. He was many very strange things, but a Satanist was not one of them. Then he shows us a picture of Jesus stomping on a snake as if we weren't laughing hard enough at this point already. Anyway, in Vigilant Christian's video, he basically tells us, if you enjoy this video, you could go to hell, but don't worry, he told you how to watch it and avoid hellfire. He said,
I'd like to advise you, if you watch this video, it is a curse. Make sure you go in it covered in prayer, making sure you would pray the blood of Christ over yourself.
Phew!
now I know how to watch it safely. I just need to be covered in blood. As if VC's video wasn't funny enough, he mentions alchemy and then starts talking about ancient astronauts. What the f***? He believes in that too? Is there any crazy conspiracy this guy does not believe in? Another side note, we're going to eventually do an episode on ancient aliens also. This guy is a goldmine of topics for anyone who likes to expose bullshit. And you know I do. It reminds me of the quote, I believe in keeping your mind open, but not so far open that your brain falls out. That quote's actually what our opening animation is based on. Hey, Vigilant Christian, see that thing down by your feet there? Pick it up, it's your brain, put it back in your head. Do you remember that dance that was based on old cartoons that we talked about earlier? Apparently David Bowie was wrong about his own idea. VC informs us that it's really mocking Christianity and Christians. He also thinks the priest character, the scarecrows, and the tormented button eyes represent and are mocking Christians. He might be correct that a few things in the Black Star video are mocking Christianity, who knows? But that begs the question, are these characters a parody of Christianity and Christians, or are they devil worshippers doing rituals? Which is it? Often a conspiracy theory will be inconsistent. To quote Michael Shermer again from his book The Believing Brain, the tendency to commingle facts and speculation without distinguishing between the two and without assigning degrees of probability of factuality the less likely the conspiracy theory represents reality, end quote. While talking about the mocking scarecrows, VC starts going off about how demons will do whatever it takes, like pedophilia and sacrificing children. Just what the where the hell was that in the video? Also, VC informs us that devil worship is like a drug. Even though Bowie isn't a devil worshiper, he says,
It's like heroin. They get this fix of like, I need to get my satanic power.
he also said the astronaut is a fallen angel. Maybe it's just an astronaut. Who knows? We don't know, that's the point. It goes on and on like this until at the end when he plays a part of a video that goes quote mining for 70s David Bowie quotes and taking many of them out of context. Now, keep in mind, this was at a time when Bowie said he didn't know what was going on and didn't know what he was saying most of the time, or a lot of the time, and living on mountains of cocaine. He's retracted some of his statements from that time, and like he said, he had grown out of that stage decades ago.
I think when you're interviewed as much as you've been and quoted as much as you've been, it's perhaps a little unfair to bring back past quotes, particularly from that period. But I was...
Are we ever going to get to the
I was
present?
staggered when I read a quote from a Rolling Stones interview that you gave at the time saying, I believe very strongly in fascism. We need a dictatorial right-wing tyranny. What was that about?
I think that was probably a bit coke-driven.
Yeah.
It was also part of... I fell into the trap of the black magic, Kabbalism, and the whole idea of the... just the Crowleyism of, the times. It was a significant part of that middle point of the 70s, and I really got completely disoriented by all that. It was an awful, dreadful period for me. I mean, the only escape for me in the end was just to get up and clean myself out, and just finish my association with cocaine, which had become such a problem that I couldn't function in any other way from day to day.
Wouldn't that suck if people held us to every little stupid thing we said when we were young, or drunk, or high, or whatever? That would be so shitty. Anyway, this is a clear case of quote mining and confirmation bias, where he's pattern seeking and forcing things to fit into his own previously held ideas. Alright, so we've mentioned a lot of topics in passing today, and we'd like to know which ones you would be most interested in seeing in a future episode. We mentioned conspiracy theories, the Illuminati, the collision with Nibiru, The Secret and the Law of Attraction, the 9/11 truthers, the anti-vaxxers and vaccines, ancient aliens, and the government covering up UFOs. So let us know in the comments which of these sound the most fun to you. Thanks for watching, be a neighbor, and subscribe.